Boom, watch fam.
What is up, Watch Fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Watch Shop. I figured what better way to start the day than with a little stroll and to walk you guys through 10 Rolex terms. I know speaking Rolex can be kind of difficult. It's like a language in and of itself, so many different components and historical references. So I'm gonna break that down. Let's do it. Let's start off with a huge one, the Paul Newman. A variation of the Rolex Daytona, produced in only 6 references, that has become one of the most sought-after, collectible, and expensive watches in the world. Simply, Paul Newmans are just standard 4-digit Daytonas, which were the original Daytonas, the manually winding chronographs that were manufactured from the early 60s into the late 80s, fitted with quote-unquote exotic dials. The differences between exotic dials and your standard fare are obvious. Notice the boldness of the print in the subdials. They've been called Paul Newman since, and it's impossible to confirm this, but widely recognized, a photo of the movie star / race car driver wearing an exotic dial Daytona appeared in an Italian magazine, birthing a phenomenon. Most notably, Paul Newman's own Paul Newman, which was a reference 6239, sold at Phillips auction a few years ago for nearly $18 million. I was there and it was just unbelievable. How about another dial that has been named after a Rolex fanatic? The Buckley, a Rolex dial that features painted, not applied Roman numerals. They're produced mostly in date justs and day dates in the 60s and 70s with a little bit of wiggle room there, but we also see the technique on some 34mm models. Buckleys are rich. I love them. They come in a few colors, white, blue, and gray, for instance. I've seen some examples bring some pretty significant premiums, especially in those rare colors, but overall, the Buckley dial represents tremendous value in the Rolex world. I'm a sucker for the white examples. Even though technically they are the most common of the Buckley dials, they're still quite hard to find, especially in great condition. Crown guards, definitely today's most self-explanatory term, and not exclusive to Rolex, but Rolex has become quite famous for their crown guards, especially in the early GMTs and Submariners. They're extensions of the case that protrude out so that one can't accidentally unscrew or damage the crown while doing something active. So they, as you might have imagined, guard the crown. The Cyclops is Rolex's magnification eye that enhances the legibility of the date function. It's become a Rolex trademark, most closely associated with the Datejust and the Submariner, while neither of those two models were born with one. Originally, Cyclopses were actually part of acrylic crystals, but when Rolex switched to sapphire, the Cyclopses had to be put on top of the crystal, so now we have 2 separate pieces. It's commonly held that a Cyclops magnifies the date by 2.5 times, but that's never been substantiated. How about a T&H favorite? The Jubilee, a 5-link bracelet that was introduced alongside the Datejust in 1945 to celebrate Rolex's 40th anniversary, hence the name Jubilee. Originally, it was introduced in solid gold and then steel and two-tone. While it may have started on the Datejust, the bracelet crept its way into the Day-Date and to the GMT as well. The Steve McQueen, the reference 1655 Rolex Explorer 2. I bet you think You know where I'm going with this. That Steve McQueen wore this great sports Rolex on the set of Papillon, or he wore it beside his GT40. Nope. McQueen wore a Heuer Monaco, and when he did wear a Rolex, he went for a Submariner. But when Rolex hit trouble, marketing their reference 1655, a watch built for speologists, cave explorers, they tapped both Steve McQueen and Jean-Claude Kelly to assist. Still, believe it or not, the reference still never really took off. Frankly, I think it's one of the best pieces in Rolex history. Now, how about the one that did take off? The President, the perfect watch. Introduced in 1956 under the reference 6511, it was the first watch in history to feature the date and the day in full text. It's associated with the President because it famously made its way onto the wrists of world leaders, including President Johnson. But really, the day date isn't the President. It's the name of the bracelet the day date is most commonly fit on. So this is kind of a messy one. Here's an example that clarifies. My dad's date chest, which is a reference 1601 in solid yellow gold, would not be referred to as a president watch, but it is on a presidential bracelet. How about another piece in my dad's watch box? The GMT Pepsi. A Rolex GMT with a blue and red bezel. The GMT was released in Pepsi configuration in 1954 under the reference 6542, which was worn by Pussy galore. But eventually, in 1983 to be precise, Rolex introduced another term into their language, the Coke, a black and red variant of the GMT. But the reference the Coke was introduced on wasn't a normal GMT, it was the reference 16760, which actually has two terms. One, the fat lady, and two, the Sophia Loren. While slightly insensitive, the use of this term originally was not meant as an insult. The 16760 was the largest, curviest, and thickest GMT to date, and who better embodies the sexiness of curves than Sophia Loren herself? So that's it. Congratulations, you now speak more Rolex. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a great day. If you liked this video, please like it. And if you love watches, go ahead and subscribe to our channel at Theo and Harris. It's fall! You're shooting on season! I'm late, I gotta go. My mom's gonna kill me!
Part of the reason why I think watches are a little bit more important than just, it's not just a hunk of metal. And it's not just like to commemorate something, it's the relationship you're thinking about.